Victor, what's going on, man?
What's going on? What's going on? I'm just waiting for a beautiful discussion ahead regarding the Cove capabilities and, in particular, disaster recovery. My favorite topic, Stefan.
Nice, of course, man. So how's the weather? First of all, like Warsaw, nice because we're having finally like some nice sunny weather. You know what I mean? Almost like you can do something when you get the quality of life back. Like how's it? How is it?
So, in the Warsaw, like, weather is beautiful today as well. Like, very sunny, very warm.
Very
Waiting
nice.
for the next weekend to spend some time in the countryside with the family.
Ooh, very nice. Well, it's nice actually to see you in Prague, actually, where we had Empower. That was cool because we actually had some nice weather there as well. But of course, we had some awesome partners and customers. I
Absolutely.
was pretty excited to have you out there, first time, right?
Completely
And
agree.
like I think one of the things we wanted to talk about here, right? Standby image, on-demand restore to Azure, and so I think that's pretty awesome. So that's kind of what we wanted to dig into a little bit here. Meet my man Victor, is responsible for all things continuity as part of Cove data protection. And I have to actually first of all applaud you for and the team really for some great work. um, looks like we did a series of external previews, hit the date, which is nice, right? We release monthly, but this is definitely a big one. And, I think it's certainly something to be proud of. Do you want me to show a picture? Of course, you know it, but, kind of like maybe
Let's do
for
this.
the audience of what we're actually talking about. All right. So last LinkedIn Live, we talked about, so we're protecting, as an example, a Hyper VVM, could also be an Azure VM. We're storing that in our enable cloud, right? So multi-cloud, and then we're allowing
Mhm.
you to restore back into production with a high degree of automation production. I'll get into that a little bit in a minute, but kind of combining the best of both worlds, right? Of instant sort of access, but also instant access in your data center, not somebody else's data center, which is always a dubious sort of temporary thing, maybe. But also, last time, Victor, I was here with Chris and we talked about, hey, this is also a cool, nifty migration tool as
Exactly.
well. So it's like, yeah, it's pretty clever. And we kind of didn't exactly discover it, but, it kind of tends to be a little bit of sometimes a pleasant surprise how many customers talked about it. So I figured what I could do is just for the audience here, share this wonderful slide. So, standby image, or that this is kind of look at this as an umbrella, but even, sort of Cove's ability to restore, and now what's new, restore back into Azure. You have a lot of these data protection copies in our enable cloud. We offer any retention, including long term retention. It's highly secure, highly efficient, blah, 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 right? So, this is kind of where your backup copies are. So, we're kind of sparing you the view of how efficiently we actually bring the data from your Hyper V server, as an example, into the cloud. But one of the things you can then kind of think about doing is, well, how do I restore back into either a local area network LAN, or it could be a co-location facility, right? Someone who you partner with, and you basically get two flavors. Either I restore that image to a dedicated server. It could be something you repurpose, right? Something you just have some lying around. You put a free build of Microsoft on there, and off you go. And you also have the ability to place essentially a flat VHDX file onto a NAS, and that a file share that could be available to multiple servers. So very flexible, right? Can repurpose existing gear. You don't have to buy a proprietary appliance. Can be a sandbox. But, of course, like everything, when you're running it in your own data center, you're going to have to really plan ahead. You're going to run all this infrastructure. And if this is really a DR use case, disaster recovery use case, you're really making an investment in this infrastructure for something you hope you will never, ever have to use, right? And so one could also argue there's some limited resilience. All is relative, right? But replication would be costing extra, right? So sometimes we lack there. And Victor, the cool thing that we talked about at Empower was we could essentially do the same thing, restoring back into like an Azure instance. So this would be an Azure instance that
Exactly.
I would provide, right? And so if you keep me honest here, but my understanding is correct, I can either restore to a dedicated VM, like a managed disk, or this is coming in the future, not there yet, but some kind of construct like a shared storage. And then you basically sort of have the same degree of flexibility. But as we discussed last time, actually, you
Hmm.
did, if you're coming from a local machine, migrate into the cloud. So that's cool. It's a kind of a side benefit. But I think overall, the benefits of the cloud, like Azure, greater resilience, scalability, and just making this infrastructure turn on when you actually need it, but
Right.
not when you don't need it. Like, did I get that right? Did I cover the workflow? Is there anything you would add?
That's that's right, Stefan. Everything is like absolutely correct. Uh, the use cases you described just on spot. That's what we are
Yeah,
doing. And talking about blob storage, I just can add that like that's what we are doing right now. We're doing some research, so we want to help our customers and decrease even more the cost of the solution. So it's already since it's public cloud, it shouldn't be a big spend from your side. But anyway, like we want to improve it even more, right?
yeah, yeah, makes sense. I think what we heard also at Empower was that a lot of customers wanted to have sort of an instant VM spun up in our data center, which is definitely a use case. But I will say that probably there could be still, well, no, there will be still the need to restore back into production, right? So we definitely got agreement there. So the thought was really, if this can be your network, there's some advantages, right? Because this infrastructure arguably is already sort of part of your network. I think overall there is sort of there's some gains to be had in this approach because of the flexibility that it offers, but also the fact that it's actually tackling the fundamental problem of automating the restore back
Mm-hmm.
into production, and then still giving you the benefit of something that's as close to zero recovery time or RTO as possible, right? And that was kind of the idea. I mean, the way we look at it is there's like three benefits overall. You have this, especially when you're looking at the bottom one, the Azure sort of use case in using Azure as a target. The fact that you actually only use resources when needed, right? So of course you have the storage, right, Victor? So the storage would be still something you need to make an investment in, but in terms of the compute usage, that would really only turn on when you power up the VM, right? Take a screenshot, so forth. Is that correct? Is my understanding correct on that one?
Absolutely correct. And like, moreover, like by leveraging like public cloud, like we actually utilize like why it was invented, right? So you use public cloud only when you need it, right? And if you need like more computational power, it's like you can easily adjust it. That's why we use it in our solution because uh, for example, it is not a migration use case, right? It means that actually you're going to restore to Azure, spend some time in Azure with your restored on-prem devices, right? And when and everything is back to normal operation on your side, you just switch everything off and remove them, and you do not spend money anymore on that, right? So, but as well as you said, so you can use it for migration. So the entire world actually goes to the cloud, right? So, and you can use our features like to do it in a quick and convenient manner.
Mm. Which, unlike the top, which is also a viable option that we support, it doesn't obviously address the migration use case. It just is a different location for DR. but it is certainly something that you would have to keep powered on. The servers need to be powered on all the time, right? And so there's obviously that elasticity. I think also the instant sandbox was an interesting one. We have a cool webinar tomorrow to talk a little bit about cyber insurance and data protection considerations about being able to restore when a cyber incident happens. But thank you, Chat GPT. But what I was able to unpack is that you can also use that Azure instance as a sandbox, right? So you can actually spin up resources. You can spin up an instance of an antivirus or malware scanner, right, to understand that there's actually no infections still in that virtual machine before you actually bring it back into production. That's certainly best practice. So I think that's kind of cool. That
absolutely, and
yeah,
just wanted to add that it's much more secure, right? To use some separate cloud. For example, you ransomware it, right? You want to check what's going on, so it's when you use separate cloud, create separate network, isolated, so it just can spread. The infection can spread, so it's much more secure. Like everyone says that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is about what you just articulated, certainly something you want to prepare for, but when you with that very point you talked about, that isolated networking, right? That's something that you have to do in the cloud as well. It's not like magically going to go away.
Right.
But what I remember from my cyber recovery days, is that if you do it the way on the top, it's going to cost you a lot of time to figure out the networking, buy the switch, do the VLAN tagging. Once you design, what sort of that sandbox looks like and the separation of duties, you can essentially just use a CloudFormation template, and then you can repeat it and repeat that process as you want to stand up an isolated sandbox, at any rate you really want to do, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's the restore back into production. So I think that's also kind of one of the benefits once you bring your own cloud, in this case, bring your own infrastructure, is the fact that this is actually already part of your network. The user permissions are already in place. You would arguably think about doing a password reset because you never know if the bad actors are actually in there. But the key is also that the customer data stays with you and not with some vendor. So while instant access is, of course, interesting and valuable, it can only ever be sort of a temporary situation where, maybe I can kind of remote in, make some basic tests, but the work of actually restoring back into production doesn't go away. So, Victor, what would be also interesting for maybe folks here to hear? What have you heard at Empower? Around the solution overall? Is this something that was well received, or what was the feedback in general?
So after the demo we did at the Empower, right? I was amused by the feedback that we received actually. So because instantly everyone just get it, how they can use it, how they can leverage it in their businesses. So what I can say, the key message that it's something that we were waiting for years, right? By the way, as well, I bumped into a couple of the customers who were part of the external preview, right? Who actually were familiar with the solutions, and their feedback. The bottom line is, it is easy to set up, and it just works. So click, so it's restored to Azure, right? So for me as a product manager who was working in the last 11 months, right? So it was really great thing to hear. So I already shared this feedback with the team as well, right? But interestingly, some insight from the Empower, right? It is the way how customer use our solution, like which use cases they address, right? So we were talking about migration, so okay, right? But the primary use case is actually protection of on-prem devices, like use it for disaster recovery with short, if we're talking about SBI, right, standby image in Azure, or actually longer RTOs if we're talking about one-time restore. But actually, we have also customers, some segment, also big one, the customers who actually use this solution to protect their Azure VMs. So they use Cove, right, to protect their Azure VMs. And right now, with this one-time restore, right, we just completed their use case. So now you can protect your devices in Azure, your Azure workload, and now you can directly, if something like went wrong, right, you can quickly and very convenient way just restore it back, just do the recovery, right? So it was like quite insight for me that actually the customers like separated in these two segments that address a bit different use cases, like on-prem workload and Azure workload.
So you mean you didn't have to read like 10 pages of documentation in one font? It actually is something, because that's what I never do. And then basically it's self-guided and self-explanatory.
Absolutely.
Keeps even a guy like me out of trouble.
It was
Nice.
our main goal. I mean, they make the entire process of the setup and the restore like user error proof. So you don't need to actually.
Nice.
I'm not doing this as well. I mean, like go to the guides, like read everything before you start. So somehow like you want to figure out like on the fly, right? And if something like allow you to do that, it's very good.
With my attention span, definitely. So you talked so much about that user journey. Why don't you just go ahead and show it maybe so folks can see it? Because I think you have a live demo
Okay,
up and
so
running.
yeah, right. I think I can do
LinkedIn
that.
Live. Let's do a live demo. Let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Let's see what it looks like.
Okay, so window. Okay. You should be able to see my screen, our beautiful
Nice.
management console, right?
So just for everyone who may have joined, we're talking about on-demand restore to Azure, or another related feature called standby image to Azure. So Victor, take it away.
I will start from on-demand restore, and if you have time, I can quickly show like how you can add device to SBI plan as well, right? So anyway, if you have a device that you want to restore to Azure, or you have a device that you want to protect with our standby image feature, anyway.
The device for everyone to understand is like a Hyper-V server, like in that, just as an example, right?
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Stefan.
Yeah.
So the first step you need to do, you need to set up recovery location, right? So in general, recovery location, it's Azure VM that you have to create in Azure with installed recovery service. The service will actually orchestrate all the recovery job, right? So to do that, so actually I already created it just for time's sake, right? But in general, to do that, you create a virtual machine in Azure. You go to the recovery locations, click Add Recovery Location button, click Recovery Location, type Azure, download, right? When it's downloaded.
So the assumption is that you have an Azure instance, right?
Yeah.
So you need to do that work. You bring that to the party, and this is what, okay.
Right, exactly. So when it's downloaded, you just put it and install on this Azure VM, and actually that's it. Your recovery location set and ready to go. After that, you will be able to find it here in the list, right? So in the morning, I've added Azure recovery location, right? So create Azure VM, download it, the installer, install it, and it appeared here. So now you can do whatever you want. You want to do one-time restore. For example, you have a failed server, for example, Hyper-V server, right? You just don't have like spare parts. Something happened with your primary data center, right? So you just go to backup dashboard, to the list of your devices. So actually it presents the backup. So I'm going to find some. Okay, so let's use some small one. Click on it. You have Restore to Azure button.
Assume this could be the Hyper-V VM that you would want to migrate to the cloud. Hint, hint. Right?
It's another use case, right? Exactly.
Okay.
So then at the first step, you have to select our Azure recovery location. We just set up, right? Click Next. check the compatibility, everything is okay. We just check that actually we can restore it. There are some limitations, but list is really short. Credential verifications.
So Victor, like as I move into that instance, right? Let's say I have a server and I'm running a database on that Hyper-V VM and it's performing really slowly because the server is utilized, right? And the response times are very bad. I could actually migrate it into a higher performing Azure tenant. For example, I'm just calling out a random example using this, right?
So I will show you. Actually, if I get you right. So you can migrate the server to any from computational power to any VM, up to you, right?
Like an upgrade. Before I buy a new server, I can just do this and actually
Right,
save
absolutely.
myself some hassle. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay,
So credential verifications. What we do here, actually here we check that you can do the restore and encrypt data that you needed privileges level, right? So I have it. So passphrase detected means I'm a security officer. So then backup session. So right now, what we do, we are loading a list of existing backup session. For example, you added the device a year ago, right? So you will be able to go and select like any backup session from the past when it's loaded for user intention period. For example, as you can see, I can select like Monday, May 1st, right? And some particular valid backup session. So this list represents saved backup in our cloud, in enable cloud. And we have like two very interesting options. So if you want to speed up restore and you just don't need all the data, right? You just need like this particular server up and running. You can click this checkbox, right? And in this case, we are going to restore only operation system disk, which can really save you time in case of some urgency, right? And if it's migration and you want still protect the devices, the future Azure VMs with the Cove, right? You can switch it on as well. And in this case, we will put the Cove backup manager into the backup mode. So, and we will proceed with backing it up. I'm going to switch it off for now.
Nice. Hey, Victor, like this is so exciting, but I think we might run out of time because it's. But I mean, like maybe just show how you're getting into there. But I assume the story will proceed as like you're gonna we're gonna find ourselves in the Azure, right? And then all of a sudden you're gonna find this nice VM in your inventory, right?
Right, absolutely. So just two additional clicks, some like Azure VM settings. Click, skip this step, confirm. This is done. It's done.
Nice.
I just wanted to explain this, some details because maybe some our partners will look, we check the recording, right? Just
make sure we make sure we get this right. Thanks, Victor.
Okay.
There's never enough time, but obviously, you know, we need to maybe do a follow up. That was awesome, and you know, I think. Yeah, go ahead, Victor. Sorry.
I just wanted to add that after that, you can find this device and restore to Azure dashboard, as you can see. So it's in the process, right? So in a couple of minutes, you will see the recovery progress, or what is percentage, and something like 30 minutes, it's going to be restored and done. And you'll be able to find this device in Azure, this Hyper-V server that you're restoring
in your inventory list.
And you tenant, right? Exactly.
And then the difference, the standby image is basically, it does it on a scheduler. So just for the audience here, the standby image uses pretty much the same workflow, but your image will always be kept current, which is awesome. Now you have a current, up-to-date copy of your VM sitting there, pretty much ready for you to power up. So, you know, recovery times are basically close to zero. You have it in your own environment already. And this environment may also be a sandbox. I mean, that's very compelling. And you're only using it on demand. You don't have to keep this environment up and running for like a situation that you may never use or hope you never encounter. Yeah.
It's standby. You pay only for the storage. at this
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah. Sweet. I think this is really cool. Thank you so much, Victor. And I mean, I just also like while we were chatting, set this up here that tomorrow we have a very exciting webinar. So if you guys want to grab this, QR code, it'll take you straight to the registration. But Dr. Siegfried Rasthofer, really, what a cool guy. He is a hacker, but he also consults one of the largest reinsurance companies in the world. So if you wanted to get a cyber insurance 101, a little bit on the threat landscape, and maybe some 1, 2 sort of considerations around best practices for data protection, you don't want to miss this one. This is going to be pretty awesome. So I don't know, Victor. That's pretty much it, right? Any plans? I mean, like for the rest of the week, show this to as many
Yeah, I think so.
partners as possible, I assume, right?
Right. Thank you for the opportunity, Stefan.
No worries. No worries. All right.